Yes, so as always, my lovely mother-in-law has prepared this for me, my Indian mother-in-law. And it's got clove and bay leaf, and we'll just set the space, the sacred space this morning. If you remember this from before, everyone. So there's such a crossover between the Indian and the Irish cultures. And of course, Magan himself has brought out a book about it, Brahmins and Brahmins. And we've traced the languages back now, ancient Sanskrit and ancient Irish, and there's a lot of root words that are the same. So sometimes you might think, what would pagan Ireland look like? It might look like India. Very colourful, very bright, great crack going on, right? Yeah, so this is just a way of setting the space as we come together this morning on Bealtaine. As I say, Bronesies, I am sorry we're a bit late. Our musician, Caitlin, who was meant to play live with us, is poorly. So we just had to figure out an alternative. So tech stuff always takes ages, doesn't it? It's brilliant until it doesn't work. Yeah. So Gurmila Maga, thank you so much for being here this morning for Bealtaine. For any of you who haven't been before, I'm Mary Ellen Saha. I am a writer and a psychologist and a storyteller. And I will take you through, I've gone back into the ancient texts, scéalta, whatever was happening at this time. And then I've created what I call new mythology, or a monology, as I like to say. Mono is the Irish word for a collective of women, because sometimes within the mythology, we have lost the feminine energy. And there's a couple of different reasons for that. We've had three strong waves in Ireland. We had Christianity, which was very male-dominated. We had colonialism, which obviously wasn't honouring our language or our stories. And finally, we had what I like to call, fondly, Cuchulainn-centric nationalism. So we got a little bit carried away with the hero's story. It's great to have a hero, but we wouldn't mind a couple of heroines as well. So my husband's saying I can probably blow this out now before I start the fire. It's like, you're getting too happy with that fire. Yeah. I quite like it. So we've lost some of, I'll come and sit by the mic. So can you all hear me okay if I do stand up and move around? Yeah. So we lost some of that feminine energy from the land because of those three different waves. And that's over like hundreds and hundreds of years, you know. So the goddess stories, though they're there in the ancient texts, they got forgotten about. And so I feel my duty now is to go back in and find those stories. And so today we are celebrating Bealtaine, which is an Irish word. It's called Beltane here in the UK, so you might have heard of it here as well. Because there's huge interlinks. We always say like fitcha you know, interwoven links, obviously between Ireland and the UK. And then I was saying also between India as well. So when you go back, you know, 1,000 years, a lot of us were all doing the same things, no matter what part of the world you were come from. We were telling stories around campfires, we were sitting under trees, we were meditating, all that good stuff. So Bealtaine, they think it comes from. Beal is the Irish word for mouth, and Tina is the Irish word for a fire. So the mouth of the fire. And there is the actual tradition that happens is it happens in Ishnok, Cnochan Ishnig, which is the hill of Ishnok, which is actually very, very near where I'm from. It's about 9 miles away from where I'm from. So this is a very strong resonance for me, this festival. I'm from a very big farming background, and it's on farmland, the hill of Ishnok. And over ancient times, and this has been written down in the books, and it's been, you know, catalogued the 17th, 18th, up to the 19th century, people were gathering there for this huge bonfire around this time. And there's different dates. You know, we have a bank holiday now, that's May Day. Some people say it was the 5th of May, the 10th of May. Ishnok itself, the hill of Ishnok, would celebrate its big festival next weekend. I think it's the 9th of May. So again, the dates shift around. But they would come together and they would light two big fires at the Bealtaine. And so you would actually have almost a mouth in between them. And the reason for this was a highly agricultural culture. And if you've ever heard of the Táin, which is a very famous Irish tale, Táin actually means wealth in Irish. But actually, you know, it's not aragad, which is another Irish word for money. It's actually Táin, which means cattle, which means, livestock. So actually wealth in Ireland was livestock. So in that case, growing up, I would have been really rich amongst all the cattle. You know, I wish my dad was here to tell him, little did I know with your herd of 40 cattle that I was actually the richest person in the land. Didn't mean needing pocket money at all, did I? I could have been amongst the cattle. So that's where the Táin comes from. But it was a highly agricultural society. And the Táin is actually an amazing story, very like the Greek Odyssey, which starts off and goes the whole way through Ireland. But it's really all about these two bulls. And so to bring it back to Bealtaine, the Bealtaine, the mouth, what happens is the livestock would come down, would be coming from the higher ground down to the lower ground now within this time of year. And so they would bring all the livestock down and they would want to purify them. And it was kind of like a bit of a pilgrimage. You know, you forget that at that time they didn't have TV, they didn't have anything else, they weren't on their phones, they weren't Instagram, and there's nothing else going on. So everything to relate to the land is they were very connected. And so people would go up to get the cattle, and it's called booling. And it still goes on in the west of Ireland today, booling. And I think buchel comes from that, and boher, and there's a whole load of words, boreen, bow, that all are linked in if you're interested. Mancon has a lot of great books that link all the words linguistically. So they would take the cattle and they would bring them down. And then to purify the cattle, they would bring them through fire. Because fire in every culture is pure. It's like going to kill the impurities. And it literally would burn, you know, the flies and things off them. But also was symbolic. And so for the people, they would also come and dance through the fire. You know, and so they were getting cleansed as well. So that's really what we're celebrating. It's this Bealtaine. It's this festival of a celebration. And many of you were here for Samhain, which is the beginning of the year in ancient Ireland. The beginning of the year in ancient Ireland. We start in the darkness always in my culture, and that is because, you know, it's the darkness everything is born in. But this mirrors directly Samhain. So this is directly opposite Samhain on the calendar, on the Celtic wheel. And this is the light half of the year, where Samhain is the dark half. So we are finally out of the dark. We've had Imbolc in between and winter solstice, of course, but this, and I mean, you've all felt it this last week or two. There isn't a person in London who isn't as happy as Larry at the moment with the sunshine, right? So this is it, and that's, our ancestors were like, woohoo, the sun is here. So it's a very, very big celebration of the sunshine. The sun is back. Let's get together and have a big party. And I bet you've all been doing that in the last 2 weeks in pubs and gardens up and down, you know, London. So exactly the same thing our ancestors were doing. So that's really where it all comes from. And it started at Uisneach, this hill of Uisneach, which was the sacred centre. Tara was kind of the administration centre, but Uisneach was always the ancient. And on the flyer or on the promotion, you would have seen an image, and that was of Uru. And that statue is actually in Uisneach, that has been created locally, and it's been there for a long time. So that's our connection back to Uru. She is the goddess of the land. I won't go too much into that because my story today is all about Uru. So you will understand after listening to that, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. And that's really the essence of Bealtaine, why they came together. And fire was very, very important, and everybody would put their fires out in their houses, and they'd no other way. There was no electricity at this time. And it was a real kind of sense of faith and like magic that everyone put their fire out, the whole land would be black, and then you would go up onto the hill. And Uisneach would be first to light. And I don't know if any of you have ever been. Any of you have ever been to the hill of Uisneach? Show of hands, any of you guys? Oh, it's really worth going. It's fantastic. Or any might be coming next week. But from the hill of Uisneach, the Midlands are very low, but when you get up a little bit in the hills, you can actually see 20 counties from the hill of Uisneach. So it is up on a height. And they would light the fire there first. And once people had seen the fire in the hill of Uisneach, then they were permitted to light their fires. And so the fires spread out through the land. So with this connection and community via the chinna, the fire. So that was really what we're celebrating, like a sense of community, coming together, saying, having a hoolie, doing the boolie, and having a hoolie. So, you know, it's all good. Right, so that's given you a good bit of background. The way this works is 3 parts. I will have a poem usually, or some kind of shorter verse I will share with you. Then I will go into my much longer mythology. So like I said, I've gone into the ancient text, you know, read what was there and then pulled something different out. I've gone off on my own retelling. And then the last part is we'll go into a meditation, because the words that we're using today are ancient words from Emerging. And Emerging is the first kind of Gaels who came to Ireland. And so we're using his words, as we always do, for our meditation. So that's the 3 parts today. So I'm going to sit down and get started. Everybody doing okay? Everyone feeling all right? Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's all about light and joy and happiness, and you all look like you're in good form. So we're good. Let me go on in.